interesting developments, because yesterday a planned motion of no confidence in the mayor was put on hold due to differences of opinion within the opposition coalition on how to proceed. Today, as you've just heard, the DA putting forward this motion to rather try and dissolve the council in November. Are we just in for more turmoil in council? Let's bring in election analyst Wayne Sussman. Wayne, thanks so much for joining us. Why is the DA, instead of going with Action SA's plan to get rid of the mayor through a motion of no confidence on Thursday, with the Patriotic Alliance apparently on board, why did they say no to that, and they're rather pushing to wait until the full 2-year mark when they can legally ask for council to be dissolved? Why?
Thank you, Sally. We're about to go into spring. It's a new season, but we keep on speaking about the same thing. The chaos continues. When we analyze what's going on in our politics right now, we have to look at the here and now, which is coalitions and the lack of service delivery in many of our metros, and then also have an eye on 2024. And I think the DA and Action SA are trying to control the narrative of who is best positioned to bring down this current government. And that is why they're putting together two different ideas. And the DA's bar is much higher. The DA, in order to dissolve the council, you need a 2/3 majority, which is a long way away when they're currently in the minority. They don't have the majority of seats. What Action SA was trying to do was saying, if we take the parties in the multi-party government, in the multi-party charter, in the Moonshot Pact, and we bring the PA together, we have a shot at bringing down the current government in the city. Because the PA, and we've said this many times, are in many instances the kingmakers in the city of Johannesburg. They have 9 seats. 9 seats out of 270 seats is significant. And the DA are not willing to go along with that because they said they've been betrayed by the PA before. That's why with these two different ideas, and both have little chance of success. So
let's talk about what a dissolution of council would mean. It needs a 2/3 vote. So it sounds like it's dead in the water already. But just out of interest, would that mean that the whole of Joburg would have to vote again?
So a council dissolution is extremely rare. I'm battling to think of a recent scenario. But however, in December last, i.e. council voting to dissolve the council. But I want to remind the viewers that in December last year in Lichtenburg, in the council of dissolution in the Northwest Province, the MEC dissolved the council because it was totally dysfunctional. And there what happened was voters went to the polls and elected ward councillors and voted on the proportional ballot, and a new council was constituted, which resulted actually in the Patriotic Alliance winning the mayoral chain there. What would happen here is a similar scenario. The difference is that the council would make the decision to dissolve, because I want to remind the viewers that the MEC for local government in Gauteng is from the ANC. I do not see them supporting a motion to dissolve the council because obviously the ANC is a core player in this coalition here. So the council would vote to resolve it. They need 2/3 of 270 seats. It's highly unlikely. But why could that? Let's just play out the scenario. If you're a political party and you think you'd finish in a stronger position after the election than you currently are, then you might go along with that. So if I'm the Patriotic Alliance, which has just won a seat off the ANC in the deep south of Johannesburg, they'd probably go along with that motion. I think the DA might believe they'd do better. Action SA, you might even get the ANC or EFF saying, we might do better today. So it's a risky maneuver. So I think political parties are saying, whatever the situation is right now, we're beholden to much smaller parties, and if we are in government, chaos is ensuing. And therefore, let's maybe think of voting for a dissolution of the council, but I still do not think you'll get to 67% of the council members choosing that.
So parties who fancy their chances in a do-over for Joburg might be keen. But still, would it guarantee a smooth sailing council thereafter?
We are in an area of fragmentation in South African politics, and I think that instead of what we saw in 2016, whereas the ANC and the DA and the EFF pretty much ruling the roost across the length and breadth of this country, I think what we saw in 2021 was much more fragmentation. Having an Al-Jamar mayor here, having an AIC mayor in Ekurhuleni, an ATM mayor in Mogale City, I would think that it's more likely that that scenario continues to play out, this idea of fragmentation.
Speaking of mayors, today our reporter on the story, Hloni Mtimkulu, got a chance to chat to Impul Palat. So yesterday she announced that at the end of September she's out as a councillor. Interesting what she was saying about some of her concerns around the way local government's been run. Let's take a listen.
It's now a circus, and I don't see myself growing in an environment such as this. So yes, I'm going back to my field, which is medicine. It does not mean that this is the end of my political career. I believe that there will be a season that will be more favorable. I'm very concerned, though, about what we've allowed to happen in our space. I do believe that it's because we have allowed the influx of all the wrong people with no skills to take up positions in public office, and that's why we work in such a chaotic environment.
Yeah, chaos, circus, and that's essentially why she's out, because I guess she feels she's stymied, she can't make a contribution, so she feels in health as a doctor she can. Does that, for you, symbolise a worrying loss of skills in the council?
I think Dr. Palat was a good addition to the council, but one thing we've got to bear in mind is the salary of a mayor versus the salary of an ordinary councillor is much higher. So the bills need to be paid.
Fair enough.
But I agree. But one would also agree that there's, again, we've used the word chaos too many times. I must get my dictionary next time, my thesaurus next time I come on air. With all the instability, she's seeing little opportunity to make a real impact. And I think the medicine's calling her. And it'll be interesting to see who the DA brings in now. By the way, she hasn't resigned from the DA.
That's
She's
right.
just resigned as a councillor. And I think you'll hear of Impul Palat in the future, certainly.
Briefly, bearing in mind that we're seeing the DA and Action SA, who are key partners in the multi-party charter, and just 2 weeks ago we're speaking glowingly of this unity and how they were going to move forward together. Now they're scrapping over what to do in Johannesburg. Is this a sort of real litmus test we're going to see again and again before this charter actually solidifies or fragments itself?
Correct. Just to remind the viewers, we live in a system where you do not need, in Britain they have first past the post. So there it makes sense to coalesce around one candidate or one party to win the election. We are in a proportional representation system where, again, it suits many different parties to try, win favour and go it alone. And that's going to be a real challenge and tension for this Moonshot Pact. I think they've changed the name, but I'll use the Moonshot Pact for today, with all the parties to stay together. And here is an example of the kinds of challenges. I think they'll overcome this challenge. This will not break up the Moonshot Pact, the multi-party charter. This will not break it up. However, we're going to see challenges like this going forward, because again, as I said at the start of the interview, it's one eye on the now, on what's happening today in our councils across South Africa, but it's also one eye on the big prize, and that's 2024.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming into studio to chat to us. Election analyst Wayne Sussman just talking about the options for Johannesburg. It does seem that the DA is going to try and push to have a debate on dissolving Parliament, which they can only do in November. But the bar to get there, 2/3 support, is what is required. Let's now